Glorify me with the glory I had with you before the world existed. These are again the words of Jesus. In ancient days, the king would have a special seal that he could put upon a law or a package, and no one would be able to claim the authority of that seal other than the king himself. And that seal marked the identity of the king. Some honors cannot be shared because the honor is bound to the identity of the person. Now, if such things are true of earthly realities, how much more true are they of the things that belong to God alone? In the hours before Jesus' arrest and crucifixion, Jesus prayed a powerful and beautiful prayer. In that prayer, Jesus addressed the Father and said, "Glorify me with the glory I had with you before the world existed." Jesus was speaking about himself. And he was speaking about something that, according to the scriptures, God will not give to anyone but himself. We go back to the prophets, and we see God speak again through the prophet Isaiah in very plain language. Through Isaiah, God says, "I am Yahweh. That is my name. My glory I give to no other, nor my praise to carved idols." Those words of God himself are not just a footnote. They're not just something to come back to or look at later on. Oh, okay, well, that's interesting. No. Those words of God himself are God stating what he's already stated before through Moses and through other prophets for thousands of years. God is saying that he alone is unique. He alone is God, and he gives his glory to no one else. And it would be sinful and evil for someone who is not God to try and take the honor of the one true God. And here in Jesus' prayer, the word glory means radiant honor, beauty, and majesty that belong to God alone. If God shares his honor with another that is due only to him, that other would have to be God himself. When Jesus prays, he's saying here two very important things. The first thing Jesus is saying is that Jesus existed before all of creation, and in his pre-creation existence, he shared the glory of the Father. This means Jesus is saying he existed outside of time and eternity. No creature can do this. By definition, no creature exists before creation. And second, Jesus is claiming that he is the rightful sharer of the divine glory. The honor Jesus is speaking about here is not the honor that comes from human crowds. It's not even a good name or a right of fame among prophets and angels. Jesus is here speaking about God's own glory. And Jesus is claiming that it's his. And this leads to an uncomfortable choice. You see, if God has already been clear through Moses, through Isaiah, through all the prophets, that God's glory is unique and not to be shared with another, then it must be that either Jesus is speaking wrongly and sinfully even, or it means that Jesus is not just another created being. Jesus is not just a prophet. Jesus is fully God. The entire logic of the Bible's teaching about God's glory points to this second conclusion. Now, some people who are uncomfortable with this, they try to say things like, Jesus is just speaking poetically about being honored. But that interpretation simply does not match the facts. Jesus claims that he had glory before creation. No prophet can say this. No angel can say this. In fact, it would be sinful and wrong for any prophet or any angel to claim the glory of God before creation, whether it was poetic or not. And Jesus asked for it in God's own presence. This is not about symbolism. This is not about human reputation. This is about divine majesty. And the Old Testament says that God's glory is not shared with another. So if Jesus is asking for God's glory, the glory of the Father, which he shared before creation, he's either deluded or he is blasphemous or he is telling the truth, just like he did earlier, that he and the Father are one. Going back to the idea of the seal of the king. The seal of the king is the mark of the authority of the king. If you stamped your own letter with the king's seal, you were claiming the authority of the king. Jesus asks for the seal of divine glory because it is already his. It is already the glory he had before all creation. So what does this mean for you? Well, if Jesus shared God's glory before the world began, that means Jesus is eternal. It means his death is the Creator's own self-giving love to save his people. The resurrection of Jesus is the return of the King to his rightful throne of glory. And it means that Jesus, the one who prayed in John 17, is speaking as the eternal Son, the rightful heir of divine glory. And he looks to you and asks, will you belong to me? Will you trust the one who is worthy of the glory of God and gives it to no other?